CK, I got to tell you a quick story, man. So I procured a new smoker yesterday. I bought a Weber Smoky Mountain, and this morning I was like, I'm getting up at like 4 o'clock, and I know you're into home cooking, so this is going to be right up your alley. I get up at 4:30 this morning. I set this thing up. I have no idea what I'm doing. I just throw a whole shitload of coals in there. It is a cold 25-degree day here and windy as hell. So like I'm trying to balance getting the right amount of coals, getting this thing up to temperature. I cannot break 200 degrees. So the short story is that I have been smoking at this point like 14 hours on an 8-pound pork shoulder, and it should be done probably in an hour or so. We'll see. Hopefully it works out for the show here. But man, it has really put me through some work to smoke some pulled pork for this evening.
Translation, we need to expedite. CK, we need to get this conversation over and done. Josh has smoked meat waiting.
Dude, I got smoked meat waiting for me, man.
What I heard, Josh, is you wishing that you got a Traeger instead of...
Oh, dude, no way, man.
Instead of the back breaking.
No, dude, I love... So what you'll learn about me is I love doing stuff the hard way, man. And there's something about that charcoal shit, and I'll bang my head off the wall a million times before I go buy that Traeger, because I love the charcoal flavor, man. It's the way to go.
No, I mean, I feel it. I've never had a Traeger, but sometimes it is enticing to just be like, I'm going to put it there. It's going to be the perfect heat.
The fucking Traeger probably would have been done like 3 hours ago. I'd have already eaten. Yeah, probably.
But no, I know exactly what that feels like, trying to, you got to fan it. It's windy. My smoker was purchased to me by Beefsteak Josh, which is a whole nother story, but I feel pretty blessed.
Some of the pics you throw up on Twitter are wildly impressive. Basically, what you will find if you spend time in a firehouse is that we're essentially high-maintenance housewives who dress up in hero costumes on occasion. We like to cook. We like to clean. We like to talk shit. We like to gossip like the cattiest blonde mom you've ever seen in your life. Don't let the exterior fool you, but cooking, huge deal in the fire service. I would say, Josh, when you get hired and you're a probationary firefighter,
cooking is number one.
The most intimidating part of your first year, there's a lot of intimidating factors: breaking into a new social environment, demonstrating high intensity skills in front of a lot of people that have done it for a long time. Nothing compares to plating your first dinner for the shift at headquarters and your battalion chief. It is my heart rate was through the fucking roof the first time I put dinner on the table, Josh.
Dude, you fuck that up and it's over for you, man. You make probation based on the food you cook. That is honest truth, man.
I wish that wasn't the case. We're gonna air out some dirty laundry. Like, you could be a fairly shitty fireman. If you can plate good meals, you're probably gonna make it. What is the origin of your cooking?
Inaccurate.
What is the origin of your cooking passion, CK? Where does it come from? Walk us through how you got to where you're at today, because it's impressive looking.
Oh, thanks. No, man. Cooking is like runs in my blood. It's like deep in my family. So my dad is a chef. He owned multiple restaurants, had a Moroccan restaurant for over 30 years, did catering. So always grew up around that. And then, aunts, grandmas, uncles, everyone cooked. Home cooking was always like a big deal. And personally, as a Bitcoiner, I'm very aligned with home cooking. It's almost like verifying your own food. And Bitcoiners are really into, shaking your rancher's hand. Like, that's a lot of verification. But, you don't have to do that to get a lot of benefits. Just making it yourself is pretty damn good already.
You better be sawing that hog's head off yourself and, gutting him and putting him on your own smoker, because otherwise you don't know where that thing came from.
Yeah. When people start
pigs, right?
Yeah. there'll be people that start in our career that are like, oh, I don't like to cook. It's like, if you can put together a Lego set for a 10-year-old, you can start figuring out how to cook and plate some meals. It's trial and error. I literally didn't do any cooking really at all before I decided to do this career. And then I did my paramedic ride time where I spent like 500 hours in the firehouse, and I was like, oh, fuck. I'm going to have to figure this out really, really quickly. And so I came home. My wife was like, what just changed? I'm cooking every night, experimenting.
So how would you grade yourself now, Dan?
I would say I've worked at it. I would say at our place, I'm middle of the pack. I'm in no way impressive, but I'm not bottom of the barrel. I would say Josh.
Selling himself short. No, dude, I think I'd give you an 8 out of 10 in your cooking skills, man. I've had some of your meals. They're good.
I'm going to butter Josh's muffin here, which I rarely do. Josh is a top tier cook at our department. He is, if you were to divide the department into the top, he'd be in the top. He'd be level 10 out of 10 if I was to divide guys into 10 levels.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. He's got some skill.
Dude, I'm going to go on a quick aside here before we get off cooking. So Dan and I worked together a couple of weeks ago. Maybe it was a month ago now. Dan knows exactly where I'm going with this. This guy we work with, I'm not going to name him because it would be pretty brutal to do it. He cooked the worst meal that I think I've had at the firehouse in like 8 years. And I'm not exaggerating. It was absolutely horrible. He bought some it was like on sale pork, like just random choppings off of some pig, just random fat assorted into a pack of like dollar per pound meat. He brought this shit back to the firehouse. And when I saw it, I was like, what is that? Like, did you murder? Like, is this a Jeffrey Dahmer victim? Like, what is this? He put this thing in a slow cooker and poured root beer on it and let it run for like 6 hours, which wasn't enough to even break it down. So this thing was like quote unquote pulled pork that he slathered in about a gallon of barbecue sauce and then fed to us. I mean, if it was in a trough, it would have made a trough blush. It was disgusting.
Yeah.
It was unfit for hogs, no doubt.
Yeah. All right, CK, we're going to shut up and get out of the way here. You can keep going on cooking if you want, but we've been introing episodes this way with people because there's so much going on, and you work in this space full time. Unload on us here to start with. Vomit into the microphone a little bit about where your headspace is at on this day. What's top of mind, and then we'll riff off of that.
Another day in a Bitcoin bear market. So I know y'all got into the space in 2017. Me too. So this is our second bear market. Feels pretty similar. There's obviously it's bigger, badder, louder than the last one. Affected more retail. Affected more institutions. It really feels like Bitcoin got its tentacles into everything. Shitcoin got its tentacles into everything. So just honestly, my macro view is that there's going to be more clown show as Bitcoin continues to become more obvious. It's almost like the yin yang of clown world, and then the other side is Bitcoin. Yep. So just expect bigger, badder, louder shit craziness, right? So I don't know,
so
it's a bear market. It's a bear market for sure. You got
a fortune cookie, like a magic 8 ball over there. Can you tell us what do you think is going to blow up next? It's coming. Something's happening in the next week or two. Just throw one out there. What do you think?
I'm not. It's a difficult business to be in. I mean, we already know that Genesis is in a lot of trouble right now. We could see more. They tie into a lot of people. It's kind of wild seeing that CoinDesk broke the FTX story, and then, fast forward a month or so, and now Digital Currency Group, which owns both Genesis and CoinDesk, one, Genesis is in trouble, but two, Digital Currency Group might sell CoinDesk as a consequence of all this fallout. So it's been much bigger than even anyone could have imagined. That reporter from CoinDesk, excellent reporting, and they unveiled some very important information. We have Dylan LeClaire at Bitcoin Magazine tweeting about BNB and Binance. Who knows? Honestly, the FUD in this case is good, because what the FUD and the fear around these exchanges' solvency creates a scenario is that they all get stress tested.
Yes.
And that's what we want.
Yes.
We want all of these to actually get runs on them, and for them to prove, proof of reserves. I guess that was a pretty big step forward with FTX. One, prove market their trustworthiness. But two, we want them to actually get stress tested and make sure that the withdrawals never turn off. So, I mean, we have Sam Bankman-Fried going on and saying, hey, FTX Japan's going to open up withdrawals. FTX USA is going to open up withdrawals. It's clowny, man. It's wild that we're just watching this. But the stress is good. Like we need, like, the whole point of this is to stress these institutions, and there's no bailout. You got the Bitcoin or you don't.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh man, I resonate with a ton of what you just expressed. And to some people that may sound malicious and mean-spirited, but it's not. It's back to the essence of what this whole thing is. And so, I was trying to express this to a friend last week, because sounding bullish in this environment sounds counterintuitive to a lot of people. It sounds kind of hopium-ish, right? And shallow. And it's anything but that. The reason that hardcore ardent Bitcoiners are so freaking bullish and excited in these environments is because these environments expose credit for what credit is, right? When you see promises imploding, you start to get an inclination for the power and the substance and the discovery behind the world's first digital bearer asset. There's a lot of unknowns in this landscape, man. I have no fucking clue what's going to implode next. I'm virtually certain that the Bitcoin that's secured behind my private keys is going fucking nowhere. And that is the whole point here. And that is why the use case and the magnitude of the Bitcoin discovery shines brightest in these painful environments. But you have to have done a lot of studying and really understand the juxtaposition of a credit-based system versus a bearer asset to get that. And so to just try to incept that in someone's mind isn't really possible. But man, if you know what's going on here and you have your Bitcoin under your own possession, it's an exciting time to be holding and stacking without a freaking doubt.
Yeah. It's almost akin to being in a hurricane shelter in the middle of a hurricane. Like you're sure that you're safe. You're in a good, solid environment. There's a good, solid concrete wall around you between you and the nasty weather outside. And you just hunkered down and ready to keep stacking those sats, And you brought up the last bear market. Like Dan and I and you, we all dealt with the last one, but I mean, it's kind of fading with time. Like you kind of forget the feelings you felt during all that shit. It sucked. Yeah. It was miserable watching it go from 20 grand down to 3 and then, ride around for 2 years and go back up.
I was hyped.
Were you? I mean, I wasn't so much.
I was catching the knives too aggressively, but I was hyped.
I've been catching some knives, man. But what I was trying to get at is basically like for people out there that maybe this is your first bear market, like understand that like all this, you're probably not feeling too good right now. You're probably feeling like shit. You're probably thinking, I bought this thing at 60 grand. It's now worth 16 grand or 17 grand or whatever it is at the moment. It's a shitty feeling. And I get it. Like, but there was no way to know at 60 grand if it was going to 100 or if it was going back down to 5. Like there's no way to know. So hole up, just sit in the shelter, keep dollar cost averaging. Don't take yourself overexposure and certainly don't leverage yourself. But just be comforted in the fact that as long as you are the one holding your keys, as Dan said, and you've got yourself a cold card or whatever hardware wallet you want to use, make sure you understand how to use it and just hunker down. You're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. But we're so early. We're so early. That's the most important thing that people need to understand. And we're so early that even the enthusiasts aren't bullish enough of a hyper Bitcoinization scenario. So like, that's the key here is like all of us are still biased bearish because we're fiat minded. Like we don't even know. It's like so early that it's not obvious what the Bitcoin world will 100% look like. Right. So it's like almost thinking about a Bitcoin world as like, just like this cosmic esoteric endeavor, like that's how early we are. I do like to make the point, and this is a kind of like a new point I've been making, but I think it's really important. One of Bitcoin's best features in this like uncertain fiat clown world that we live in is its asymmetric risk to reward profile. So what does that mean? That means you don't need to put that much in to have massive upside, but if it goes to 0, you didn't put that much in. Like that's pretty much what it means. Like that feature is awesome. Like that is one of the most awesome features about Bitcoin. And if you're all in or you buy too much that you can't afford it in the short run, you could be a forced seller
for sure.
But you also give up that feature because if you're all in, then your upside is enormous. Your downside is also everything. So you actually give up one of Bitcoin's best features, which is like strategically a bad decision because we live in a world of massive uncertainty and massive volatility, and that doesn't make you very anti-fragile. So I think like obviously you want to have the most Bitcoin on the other end of this craziness, but you need to put yourself in the best position possible. And if you're over leveraged, you lose the asymmetric risk to reward feature that is present within investing in Bitcoin today. Super important.
That's really good advice, man.
Love it. Okay, so this is one thing we've explored, CK, on this show before, which is when you think through your risk profile, particularly this asset, the way you just sort of enumerated, a lot of it depends on your life situation. Okay, so let's paint two scenarios here. Somebody that is all in Bitcoin, massive exposure, will go 80% plus of their net worth is in this asset. That person their situation is totally different if they are 72 years old and retired versus 32 years old with incredible job security and cash flow. Those are two very different scenarios. The former person that's retired, everything is on black in that scenario. And black's likely to hit, especially for us bullish Bitcoiners, but there's far more risk there than for the person that has robust perpetual cash flow, right? Or it owns their own business or something like that. So that's something I would encourage everybody to think through. When you just said what you said, it made me think of Pish. This is maybe a 2021 theme he was hammering home, which was a 1% allocation to this asset could change your freaking life, especially when we're looking at the price right now. If you put 1% of your net worth in this thing, something even that small, it could freaking change your entire life as we fast forward a decade or two.
Yeah, Dan, I almost thought of that you might have been describing Bitcoin Tina there on the older end of that spectrum.
Yeah, I was. I mean, I had him in the back of my head. Yeah.
And for anyone who's given
I love
that
Bitcoin
shit,
Tina.
I know we do
Bitcoin
too.
Tina so much.
We understand what he just did. Yeah.
So yeah, the thing is that like he understands, in the period of time he's in his life, like he needs to be more conservative than maybe guys our age. And that's totally understandable. Yeah. And it's cool that he told everybody what he did. He could have just pretended he never did that and could have kept on saying what he says.
He's too authentic.
Exactly.
He can't keep a lie up. He's too authentic. He's too honest. I'm a huge Bitcoin Tina fan.
Yeah, we are too.
We've enjoyed your conversations with him, and I agree. I respect that level of honesty because he knew when he shared, the backlash he was going to get.
Dan, we need to get him on the show, by the way.
Yeah,
I don't know why we haven't had him on.
We need to bring a Tina tamer on, though. Maybe we bring on CK or Carlos Sari because, we're going to bring a Mustang in here, and either one of us know how to handle him.
The problem Dan and I have is we just have a very robust dislike of the word and name Tina for some reason, and guys we work with will understand, but. Yeah, we just don't like that name whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate that he has used that name.
Well, hey, listen to Bitcoin Tina on Bitcoin. We got six parts now. So, and I fully endorse getting Joe on the show with Tina. I think that would be awesome. I don't add that much. Like they're even too big brain for me, but I may be more directionally correct on my bullishness. So. Yeah. I'll probably take that one.
Yeah, we'll bring a Tina tamer on.
Tina tamer.
Okay, comment and then a question for you, CK. So you said that in 2017 you were actually excited, which I think is a testament as we each trace our journeys of the fact that your understanding of this was probably beyond both of ours in 2017 or with 2018.
If you were excited, I would say definitely it was.
Yeah, and so that's where I think we're probably in the situation now in this bear market that you were in last bear market. What is different this time? So we've said, okay, it's same old, rinse and repeat. If you had to pick what's something different from this go round than 2018, what strikes you?
I mean, Bitcoin's way better. Bitcoin's in a much better situation this time around.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all.
Bitcoin's like getting intertwined into energy production. Like, I don't think we're that far off from every single energy producer that's worth their salt finding Bitcoin. Because why? They get more money if they do it. And their system works better. Even if they just dump it for fiat immediately, they have more fiat. It's just, it will be a no-brainer. And it's like, if you don't do it, you'll be like on a step level less competitive as a producer.
Yep. Huge disadvantage.
Like we're pretty much already there. And we're in the early stages of it, but it doesn't take that long. This is such a massive advantage for the people who adopt it that it's going to get arbed out, if you will, especially if you take into account, like, all right, all these public miners are going to go like out of business. Like, where are their technicians going to go? Like,
right.
They're going to get spread around. Like,
I've still got too many mining stocks that I've just not looked at in months that I don't want to hear it. I'm literally putting my fingers in my ears and saying, la, la, la. Like, I'm not going to listen to it.
They're getting,
but hey, that's talent though. That's talent that's going to get dispersed. So
it hurts.
Like, I am honestly always in awe and shock of Bitcoin's resilience, the speed in which Bitcoin operates. Like, Bitcoin is literally a mind virus, and it's also a hardware network. It's also I don't know. I could get really crazy with it, but I think mind virus is a good example, because it's like people need to understand the magnitude in which this thing works. And like, once you get caught, like once you catch it, like once you see the world from a Bitcoin perspective, like you don't unsee it. That doesn't happen. And Bitcoin just makes more and more sense too. So it's getting more viral. Like, the way I say it is, like, back in the day, you had to have an enormous amount of, what's the word? You had to have an enormous amount of priming. So, my priming was personal finance, understanding of technology, understanding of open source development. I would say those 3 things.
Yeah.
Right.
Libertarian bent. Okay, those 4 things. Libertarian bent on top of that. Like 2017, I was primed to see Bitcoin.
Yep.
But like, the level of priming is going down because education's getting better. The world's getting more clowny.
Yes.
Yeah. And you get 2 dumb firemen talking about it all the time. Like, we're like, we're trying to make this as low hanging fruit as possible for people,
Yeah, no, totally. And I mean, like, we can't even identify the ways in which, like, best spread Bitcoin, but like, Bitcoin is like operating in a way in which it gets it anyways, right? Like, I often challenge Bitcoiners to think, like, how can shitcoins be good for Bitcoin? Like, I can think of 10 reasons why shitcoins are good for Bitcoin. Like that's how viral Bitcoin is. Like, I don't actually think the shitcoins are good, but like, I think it goes without a doubt that if you're a shitcoiner, you probably know how to use a hardware wallet. I think it goes without a doubt that if you're a shitcoiner, you're talking to Bitcoin maximalists and you're engaging with Bitcoin maximalist content. I think without a doubt, if you're a shitcoiner, you know what Bitcoin is. You probably own some Bitcoin. Like, I don't know. I could keep going.
No, I totally get what you're saying, because
that's just kind of like my mental model for Bitcoin. It's just like, it gets like, no matter, it can get the Bitcoin purist educational podcast, and it can get, this perverse way of adoption as well. Like, it doesn't care.
At the end of the day, if Bitcoin is as special as we're suggesting it is, which I think it is by far the most interesting thing I've ever studied. I think it's the discovery in my lifetime that is going to have the biggest impact on our species. If that thesis and that conviction plays out, it's going to win. Okay, so this is my argument to
100%
Bitcoiners that are literally afraid of shitcoins. Now, I understand that they may slow down adoption, this or that, but if some...
No, they speed up adoption. There's no question they speed up adoption.
If some proprietary, obscure shitcoin defeats what I'm suggesting is this momentous of a move forward for our species, then I was just fucking wrong, right? So if you chill out and let your thesis play out, this thing is going to perform over time, right? It's going to be a rock surrounded by a bunch of sand, and people that were building on the sand are going to recognize the rock. And we're in the middle of one of those storms right now.
The cloud is just someone else's computer. Everything you do online is intermediated and permissioned. Your data is not yours. Opt out by running a private server and take back control over your digital life. Until now, running a private server has only been available to the technical and the wealthy. The team at Start9 has developed an operating system called Embassy OS that levels the playing field and makes it possible for everyone else. Run a Bitcoin node, run a Lightning node, and become your own everything. Embassy OS is the distribution platform open source software has been waiting for. You can download Embassy OS for free and install it on your own hardware, or you can buy one of Start9's plug-and-play devices. They build reliable products backed up with incredible customer support. Visit start9.com.
The BCB podcast is sponsored by Capital Logistics. Capital Logistics is a freight broker connecting truck drivers and shipping partners around North America. A true blue-collar business that supports blue-collar Bitcoin. They specialize in temperature-controlled cargo, efficiently hauling food, supplies, and other freight nationwide for some of America's largest companies. Capital Logistics is a firm believer that people and businesses should be able to save what they earn without having their purchasing power manipulated by the financial system, ravaged by inflation and currency debasement. As early adopters of innovative systems throughout their business, Capital's excess cash flow is put into Bitcoin every month. If you're someone that wants to work with a company that shares blue-collar values and an affinity for Bitcoin, reach out to Capital Logistics today. Find them online at capitallogisticsllc.com. That's capitallogisticsllc.com. The tide's washing out, and they're like, oh, shit, that thing's still sitting right there. We're getting a lot of converts right now. I know every person that's in the space, DMs coming in. You know, I was doing this, now I'm doing this. We're in that environment where this thing is just proving itself because it's built that way.
Dude, the shitcoins are washing out right now, too. I saw that Coinbase just delisted XRP. They delisted Bitcoin Cash, and they delisted Ethereum Classic today. So, I mean, there's 3 shitcoins we could just wipe right off the map. And XRP, I mean, come on, you should have figured that out years ago. But one thing I wanted to get back to about what you were just talking about, CK, was Bitcoin education in general. Like, I remember when Dan and I were talking about this in 2017, the best source for understanding Bitcoin was, and he still is, I mean, Andreas Antonopoulos, phenomenal. Like, you watch his YouTube videos from like 10 years ago. The guy got it instantly, and he's really good at helping you understand it and going down that rabbit hole. But since then, there's been so many new entrants from in the last 4 or 5 years that have made the education so easy. I mean, like, shout out to Looking Glass, Daz and Seb. Like, these guys are putting together some amazing content, like 80-page paper that they sent to us recently. I'm not sure if they made it. It's on the website.
I don't think it's public yet, but it's fucking dynamite.
It's really good, man. Like, they walk you through like the basic understanding to all the technical details at a pretty decent scope where you can understand it as like a lay person without ever having read about this stuff before. Like, this stuff is literally just being handed to people. It's super easy now to get orange pilled within. I mean, I'd say like you could do it solidly in a day if you really were interested. But I mean, 5 years ago, it took some serious digging to find the stuff to find the real signal, you know?
I mean, just ask the right questions.
Right.
That's for sure. Sorry, Dan.
Just think about what Bitcoin Magazine's putting out every single day. I mean, you can go on Twitter Spaces almost any hour of the day, it feels like, and you've got somebody big in the space exploring something important. That might be a good transition into, I guess I want to start with how you got connected with the mag and got to the point you're at right now, and then maybe we can parlay into exploring what you folks are up to or what you're most excited about.
Yeah, no, it's been fun just kind of riffing, but I think the best way to explain how I started with Bitcoin Magazine is kind of talk about my Bitcoin story, how I got into Bitcoin. I was in Silicon Valley working sales at a tech job. It's like the third startup I've worked for. Third startup I've worked for. Kind of hating my life. It was like a surveillance marketing company. Just like, I don't know, every single day was puke, really was. It was just terrible. And a friend of mine, she had been investing in Bitcoin, and she just hit me up and was like, yo, like, Bitcoin, you got to check it out. So I was going to a wedding that was in Mount Shasta. It was like 4.5 hours away from SF. And my then girlfriend, now wife, she was going to a different wedding, and we were separated. So I was driving by myself to this wedding for 4 hours, and I binge listened to the #1 crypto blockchain podcast at the time, Laura Shin's Unchained, and I listened to every single episode of that on like 2x speed. Got home, and I was like, "Holy shit! This is going to be huge." And at the time, like, I thought it was Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum. Like, I didn't differentiate, but I immediately bought some Bitcoin, bought some Ethereum, bought Litecoin. That was like fall of 2017. So it was like fall 2017, right before the Bcash pump, but I actually missed the hard fork. So I never got my Bcash airdrop. That's how, like, not OG I am. But at one point, if you were holding on to Bitcoin in your own wallet, you got free Bcash, and some Bitcoiners flipped that for like 40% of a Bitcoin.
We were around
I did. One of the scariest moments in my Bitcoin story is when I went to go get the Bcash out of the Bitcoin, and I was on some shady ass website following some directions. And I was like, this seems really shady, but I'm going to do it because it's a decent amount of money. I remember thinking like when I pushed when I pushed like split or whatever it was, I was like, I might have just lost all my Bitcoin. It might be gone because it was such a weird, shady website that looked like it was going to steal my money. But yeah, go on.
Well, I'm glad it survived, man. But yeah,
it did.
A lot of people extracted their Bcash, sold it, made a lot of Bitcoin out of it. I was late. I'm not even that much of an OG, but very happy to like immediately have, kind of gotten obsessed with the space. I couldn't pay attention at work. I had like 2 monitors. One of them was just a chart all the time. I was already planning on quitting. So like at that point, I didn't care. And I was just like on Twitter, on the charts, just kind of doing my thing. And I'd been around enough startups that I've seen like pretty much shitty startups raise, a few $1 million. And I was seeing at the time, it was just like so crazy, all these ICOs raising orders of magnitude more money. And I was like, these are just like shitty startups with tokens. Like, I don't get it. Like, there's nothing special about these shitty startups. If anything, they're shittier. Like, these are like less established. They don't even have products.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I started just looking up what is wrong with Bitcoin. What is wrong with blockchain? What is wrong with crypto? And the only things sort of jumping up were Tone Vay's crypto scam and Ansel Lin or Bitcoin and markets. And there's like nothing else. So talking about education, the education has come in an enormous way. Like now, you can go to your Barnes and Nobles and get beautiful Bitcoin Maximalist magazine.
Look at that.
Gorgeous.
So back then, Tone Vay's crypto scam, like you could barely like you had to be committed to listening to it because the audio was that bad. Like it was hard to listen to those episodes. But I wanted to know. I wanted to know what the fuck was wrong with Dash, So within like 2 or 3 months of discovering Bitcoin and like really becoming like enthusiastic about it, I was like for the most part like a Bitcoin maximalist. And we are anticipating the Bitcoin, the B2X airdrop. So I like needed to get my Bitcoin off of Coinbase, got onto a hardware wallet to get that airdrop. Airdrop never came because Jeff Garzik is an incompetent idiot. And I'm glad that Bitcoin is immune to idiots with clout, because pretty much nothing else is immune to idiots with clout. I think like that's what we're seeing across the globe is like all these institutions have been completely taken over by idiots with clout, and Bitcoin is immune to that, which is awesome. So I never got my B2X, but I was a Bitcoin maximalist. Fast forward Christmas of 2017. 2 weeks before that, I had put in my 2 weeks. I was like, see you later. I don't know what I'm going to do. I have no job. I have no plan, but I need to explore this crypto thing. That turned out to be pretty much, 5 or 6 days from the top. And by the time I got home for Christmas, like Bitcoin was already 10K. My coworkers were laughing at me. But honestly, like I didn't care. Actually, I gifted my brother some Bitcoin. And I was like, yeah, this was more expensive when I bought it for you, but it'll be worth more someday. He's like a doctor. He's kind of like skeptical, laughing at me. But I didn't really care. Like I was already like, this is the future. Like there's no way that this doesn't become the way that we measure and translate value. And I asked for a North American Bitcoin conference ticket, which is a conference in Miami. It's a notorious shitcoin conference, but it goes down in late January. And I went to Miami for that conference. And lo and behold, the Bitcoin Magazine team had a booth there. And the CRO at the time, he was just hanging out. And I went over to him and I shook his hand and I was like, sales, San Francisco, Bitcoin. He gave me his card. He was like, give me a call back. And, within 3 or 4 weeks of that, had a remote job. And I actually convinced them to let me go to Asia, which was my plan, was to go over to Asia after quitting my job. So I let me work remote from Asia for like 3 or 4 months. So It really was just like an absolute dream come true. At the time, we weren't even Bitcoin only. We became Bitcoin only in 2019. And like, I remember when that was announced and I was like fist pumping, like, yes,
yeah,
this is like my dream company. Yeah.
How did that happen? How did that happen internally? Who made that decision? Walk us through that process. Cause I'm sure that ruffled some feathers somewhere.
Yeah, no, I mean, a bunch of people left or got fired after, that decision over time. But, it seemed like all of the like senior leadership then and now, all like kind of hardcore believers in Bitcoin specifically. And, they're all really early to Bitcoin, 2013, right? So like the Bitcoin only ethos like wasn't as obvious. It wasn't as defined. It wasn't known to be as needed. So like they got into everything as it was like coming out, but then it became way more obvious that like Bitcoin's really the thing that we care about. And in 2018, we did an event called Distributed 2018 in San Francisco. I actually sold booths for that event. And like, it was a combination of like Bitcoin, shitcoin, all the whatever. But during that show, I was talking to Aaron Van Werdum, who's like a legend in Bitcoin. He was one of the original maximalists at our company, documented, Bitcoin history since, the early days. And I was like, man, like the Bitcoin Magazine brand has so much value. Like, why are we wasting our time with distributed and stuff? Like, maybe even if we do distributed, like, let's just like make Bitcoin Magazine just about Bitcoin. And he was like, yeah, I've been thinking about that too. Like, I think it's really important. Like Bitcoin Magazine, should be about Bitcoin. And then Aaron subsequently goes and talks to David Bailey and is like, he kind of seeds the idea. He's like, dude, why are we like, there's a market opportunity for Bitcoin. Like if we're this bullish on Bitcoin, how can there not be a market opportunity here? Like, we should just focus on Bitcoin. And like that idea, I think completely took over David. Like David was like, yes. Like as soon as it's like something that you already believed that you just needed to hear, it was almost like that moment with David. So by early 2019, we had made the announcement. We had divested from everything that wasn't Bitcoin focused. And a month and a half later, we started up the Bitcoin conference. And that was actually started up partially by Rod Bitkite of Bitcoin Park. He was working for Bitcoin Magazine as a CRO at the time. And he was like, we need to do a Bitcoin only event. Like there's this opportunity here. And he started the Bitcoin conference and I was working for him. Eventually, he left, did some other stuff in Bitcoin and then started Bitcoin Park in Nashville, which is a legendary like co-working community space, amazing building. Nash Bitcoiners is held there. I'm going to go hang out there tomorrow, actually.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he helped us start the Bitcoin conference and now we're going into Bitcoin 23. It's going to be huge. Bitcoin Miami. And it's just like in 2019 when I was fist bumping because we went Bitcoin only. Like I had no idea it was going to get this big. I had no idea it was going to go this far, this quickly. And like this, I think Bitcoiners are inherently bearish on how fast this is going to go. But I would say like, just look at the Bitcoin conference. That's a physical instantiation of like how fast this is going. Bitcoin 2019, 1,000, it was like what, 1,200 people, something like that, maybe 2,000 people. Bitcoin 2020, that's supposed to be 4,000 people, but that gets canceled because of COVID. Bitcoin 2021, 12,000 people. Bitcoin 2022, 25,000 people. Like, okay, we're going to go into a bear market. Like, I don't know. People are saying this is too bullish, but like, I think we could break 20,000 again. Like we're on pace for that. Like if you track our ticket sales to last year's, like we're on pace for that, but everyone's saying, hey, it's going to be smaller because it's a bear market. So like, even if it's smaller, like, we're still playing in the 10K, we're still playing in the 5-figure event category. This is like one of the biggest finance events in the world. Like that's how big Bitcoin's already
crazy.
Gotten. And like, we started at 1,200 people in 19.
Yeah.
Like
that's crazy.
So if it just keeps any resemblance of this momentum, like
what,
we got the Bitcoin World Fairs coming up soon in 2025. I'll sell you a ticket to that.
What do you got? You guys, you have anything you can reveal about what you guys have planned? Anything wild for this Bitcoin conference in Miami? Dan and I are going to be there, so we're looking forward to, dumpsters full of like Venezuelan cash or helicopters tossing, dollar bills out. What do you guys got going on?
So we are completely re-envisioning how to do the experience and the content at this event. I would say like 2022, we kind of climaxed with this like massive Bitcoin industry event. And it kind of looked like a combination of Comic-Con and like CIS, something like that. It was like culture as well as tech and businesses. And we want to sustain that kind of cultural festival business dynamic, but we're rethinking how to do the content, how to intelligently marry those factors together, and how to put on an event that really like leans into Bitcoin and Bitcoin enthusiasts and the people who are pushing this space forward all the time. So in terms of like what the venue experience is going to look like, it's going to be at the Miami Beach Convention Center again. It's going to be completely different than last year. We're rethinking the entire floor plan. I think it's a lot more intelligently put together. This is our second year at that venue, so we know it a lot better. And yeah, I mean, I think that in terms of the totems and the different like activations that are at the event, it's going to be really exciting. But what is most exciting is the community that comes together, how we're able to engage and bring people together and get them to push Bitcoin forward. And, the big moments that get saved up for the conference. We're getting all these press releases all the time. Like, I want to make this announcement. I want to make this announcement. And there's all these massive moments that kind of get saved for this industry event. And the magnitude of Bitcoiners coming together in person, and then, all of this kind of industry energy, being broadcast into the world, it really is just absolutely electric. So I don't know if I answered that question. There's more like details that are going to come out later on. But, for the time being, it's kind of still in the early stages,
The volcano is going to be a giant, just wasteland wintertime festival.
I don't want to, drop any, slip with any of the secrets, but, I'm hoping that the volcano is back. I'm hoping that we optimize it, but, at the same time, like every single year has had a different vibe. This is the first Bitcoin comp, Bitcoin 2019, it was the bear market. We had bear market pricing. It was a bear market event. We're thinking through what's the best way to like put this year's energy into a conference and make that physical.
One thing, an announcement we're going to be making at the conference next year, CK, is that we will be procuring, bringing, and affixing a massive ball sack on the bull. This is a hill we will die on, by the way. We're going to start it right now. What do we got? 5 months to get the momentum going. Roughly there. We want a huge set of nuts on that bull out front. You heard it here first. Artists, reach out to us. Anybody that has the potential to design.
Crypto Graffiti, if he could produce some kind of giant nuts for the bull, that would be great.
Yeah, honestly, it's a great idea. I'm for it. I was never for the decapitating of the bull's nuts, and honestly, it was a detail that we were not aware of until it was made public. And
it spelled trouble. That's the origin of the bear market right there. Yep. You castrate your bull, you have
the Miami bull.
Yeah. One thing I wanted
sorry we started the bear market, guys. It's on us. It's on the bull.
Did the bull have an asshole on it? Because if it had an asshole and no balls, like that's the whole problem right there.
No, I think it was completely nerfed, if you will.
Well, our goal is to make it
fiat world
is to upgrade and update it to be completely realistic anatomy. Maybe 2x ball sack size though, Josh, is what I'm thinking.
I don't know. Well, I mean, it's really one of those things you have to size up in person. You can't really just say 2x. It's got to be.
Yeah.
There's some art to it,
Yeah.
I think what you should do is, get a 3D model of both your heads next to each other, and then you turn that into the nuts.
That would be perfect. But one of them got to be slightly larger, hanging a little lower, and then max realistic, you know?
Yeah.
They're never exactly the same, you know?
No.
You're right. Always asymmetrical, just like Bitcoin. One thing I wanted to double back to, CK, that I totally agree with, and I think is a really important recognition. While the price is cutting off, all the fundamentals are strengthening. What's being built on top of this protocol is remarkable. It's happening so fast, it's impossible to keep track of day to day. Like an example from the last couple of weeks for me, I started fucking around with Nunchuck Wallet, using a tap signer, an MK4, doing 2 of 3 multi-sigs. I'm like, holy crap. If you compare the first time I set up a and I'm not saying these are totally, the same option, but how difficult it was a couple years ago to set up a multi-sig, and now these options that are still quite robust, fairly secure cold storage options, that the way that these everything is being built, and you can see into the future of how easy this is going to be. The infrastructure is being built for people to possess their own money, to own their own money for the first time in human history, to double back again. And it's happening so quickly. And every time I try something new, I'm like, oh my God, like this is crazy how quickly this is rolling out. To get to the question, what are you most excited about that's being innovated within or on top of Bitcoin? What's wetting your whistle right now?
Folks, Swan Bitcoin is the place we point friends, family, and fellow firefighters to buy Bitcoin. Swan is a secure, education-focused, Bitcoin-only on-ramp fit for novices all the way up to full-time financial professionals. Swan's exceedingly easy-to-use interface enables you to dollar-cost average daily, weekly, or monthly, as well as conduct instant smash buys. Withdrawals to cold storage are completely free and can be totally automated. Swan wants you to hold your own private keys, and support is one click or phone call away if you need help in that process. Additionally, check out Swan Premium. This gives members exclusive Bitcoin educational content, discounts on Bitcoin products and services, and privileged access to Swan events. Normally $20 a month, you can get Swan Premium for free for the first year at swan.com/premium, and it's free for firefighters at swan.com/fire. All Swan services can be found at swan.com.
Blue Collar Bitcoin is brought to you by Crowd Health. With open enrollment upon us, what if you didn't have to pay healthcare premiums anymore? What if you could invest in Bitcoin instead? With Crowd Health, you can put aside money for health expenses in your own account, and even hold a large part of it in Bitcoin. If Bitcoin goes up, you get the upside, not big insurance companies. Pay one low monthly total to fund an account that is yours. Choose your doctors and hold up to 75% of the funds in Bitcoin. If a large expense comes up, Crowd Health will crowdfund the bill and pay it quickly. Stop supporting the broken health insurance system with your hard-earned capital. Go to joincrowdhealth.com and use code BLUE now and experience freedom from health insurance by utilizing Bitcoin. Right now, through the end of the year, you can get your first 6 months for just $99 per month. Don't get stuck in a bad insurance plan again. Instead, go to joincrowdhealth.com and use code BLUE to sign up. That's joincrowdhealth.com, promo code BLUE. Crowd Health is not health insurance. It's a totally different way of paying for healthcare. Terms and conditions may apply.
The Blue Collar Bitcoin podcast is powered by arguably the most legendary company in Bitcoin, CoinKite. Use promo code BCB for 5% off select purchases, including the cold card, at coinkite.com. Established Block 141,000, CoinKite is an industry leader in security and hardware manufacturing. They are producers of the renowned Cold Card, the world's most trusted and secure Bitcoin signing device or hardware wallet. It's built with a plethora of features fit for Bitcoin beginners all the way up to the most advanced of users. This device is a one-stop shop for your Bitcoin custody needs. CoinKite also manufactures the Block Clock, a gorgeous e-ink digital art display piece sitting in the background of every serious Bitcoiner on planet Earth. Block Clock can be programmed to scroll through key Bitcoin metrics including price, hash rate, the next halving date, and much more. CoinKite are also the makers of the Open Dime, a small USB stick that allows you to spend Bitcoin like a dollar bill, passing it along multiple times. Check out CoinKite's entire suite of products at coinkite.com.
Hey, if you can hear us, you got no audio, CK.
Oh, sorry. I was muted.
All good.
This might be an unsatisfying answer, but I want to go back to mining. Like, I'm such a fanboy of mining, and I'm such a fan of mining becoming part of energy infrastructure. I don't want to make an argument about what energy infrastructure is the best. The ability for mining computers to be modular and to sap up electricity that is unsellable otherwise is such a massive fundamental game changer. Like, it's such a game changer, and I like to be provocative. It might be more of a game changer than sound money. Like, that's how much of a game changer it is.
That was provocative. Yeah. Holy shit, that was provocative.
Like, that's how underrated, how big of a deal this is. And I'm not trying to underrate how important sound money is. You know, it's a beautiful thing. Bitcoin does both. You know, but it's huge. We are living in a world with both financial literacy and energy literacy, and Bitcoin solving both simultaneously. Like, it's all about resource allocation, and it's all about efficiency. It fixes inefficiencies in how we produce and manage and leverage and value energy, and then that mechanism is shifted into, you know, the perfect money. So there's a million different ways that you can explain how that works, explain the magnitude of that. I love all the different philosophers in Bitcoin, but ultimately, you know, that's what Bitcoin's offering to the world is the ability to fix the money, the ability to fix the energy, the ability to give individuals complete sovereignty. And it all starts with the energy. It all starts with the mining. And like, that's like, I'm so gleeful when I'm watching Ethereum do the merge. You know, for me, it's like, okay, well, that's just another cryptocurrency proving that it's not susceptible, or it is susceptible to stupid narratives, to some idiot with clout, right? Yep. And, you know, Ethereum gave up I would say it's like the only thing it had going for it.
Right.
Like, all this other stuff is noise. The only thing it had going for it was a dominant proof of work cryptocurrency. And like, it had the potential to be used in the use case of like buyer of first and last resort for energy. And now it's gone. You know, it took itself out of the game. You know, it's epic, honestly. Like, if you just look at the scale of it, so, I mean, I don't even want to talk about some shitcoin, but I guess like, I'm just trying to talk about like how enormous mining is, right? The fact, like, this is going to electrify the entire world. You know, what percentage of the world is electrified today? And like, what is that going to mean for every person living in that scenario? Like, Bitcoin brings so much human capital online by bringing the world online, by electrifying the world, by giving them access to the best money, the best store of value asset that's ever existed. So now you go from like the most impoverished person on the planet to you have access that not even the richest people in the fiat system have access to, and everyone gets that. Like, that's what kind of stems from the seed of Bitcoin mining infusing into the energy industry and making the energy industry more efficient, more profitable, less susceptible to other sorts of financing and other sorts of incentives. Like, it makes it just about the sats. And like, freeing energy is that is a huge part of this revolution.
Yeah, it really puts an exclamation mark on top of how much bullshit there is in ESG. Like, if people actually took this serious, and, you know, social governments, right? Like, this is something that is supposed to be helping people that are in the position of poverty, helping people that need help, right? And like, all these companies, like, they gave Sam Bankman-Fried he got a better ESG rating than like ExxonMobil's CEO or whatever. It's just so overt how full of shit all of this stuff is. Like, if you think about this realistically, like what you're, you know, going on about, just the energy, the giving people the ability to actually store their own money, giving people the ability to bootstrap themselves into a better life. Like, if they were taking ESG serious and they actually rated these things on like a scale that actually was reality, Bitcoin would be one of the most ESG things that is in existence. But it's all about a narrative, and it's all, heavy-handed bullshit. And
it's all marketing.
So exactly, it's a marketing fugazi is all it is.
CK, what I wanted to chime in with is that when we talk about the implications of Bitcoin, both on the sound money front and the electricity grid front, the two are totally symbiotic. And that's another thing that I think takes people a long time, because a lot of people are sitting around going, well, what's it going to matter for electricity producers if Bitcoin's irrelevant? And it's like, the security of the network is the value proposition. The scarcity, the soundness of the money is completely dependent on the protocol being immutable and uncensorable. And that is dependent on proof of work. So as the two feed on each other is what I'm getting at, right? As Bitcoin becomes more valuable, it has these impacts on the electricity grid. It provides this opportunity to electricity producers. And then they feed back into the sound money. It feeds on itself over time. And I agree, the provocative to say that, very provocative statement, but the two are married together is kind of what I'm getting at. And that's taken me a while to digest. It's taken me a while to digest how the two feed on each other over time. And I think the other thing a lot of people haven't recognized is, you've used the word unsellable energy. Like the Bitcoin price can do a lot of bearish things, and this can still be a viable, profitable opportunity for energy producers that have excess energy that they literally can't monetize whatsoever. And the magnitude of people that have that opportunity, that literally are just pissing money away, not engaging in this, that's the light bulb moment. How are they going to continue to say no to this when it's like, oh my God, that competitor and that competitor, and then the snowball starts rolling?
It's so obvious that, I mean, the thing is like, maybe I'm giving all these people too much credit, but like, I do think that people will arbitrage out profit opportunity. And we're about to see a lot of ASIC machines get liquidated again as these public miners go defunct. And it's like almost beautiful to see like the incentive process and like how it actually plays out. It's like all of these fiat miners, these public miners, raised all this capital, pretty much financed the shipping of all this equipment to the United States in the West. Then they go out of business because they're fiat companies and they messed up their accounting and they're over leveraged. And then they're liquidating their miners to the most diehard savage operators in the Bitcoin space that's willing to buy it at a fraction of the cost. It's almost like the exact same process of like, the newbies buying the top, FOMO, and then FOMO selling, the fear scaling. Yep. And then just dumping right into the hardcore stackers. Like that happens in every element of Bitcoin. Dirgigi put out a legendary tweet thread back in 2019. It was called "Bitcoin is Circular," and the whole point is to kind of like show the circular nature within Bitcoin, like kind of how Dan described it. And like that's actually the most beautiful thing about Bitcoin is that it's 100% self-referential. Like it doesn't need any other stuff. Like that's why it can provide this like foundation of uncensorableness. Like that's why Bitcoin's better than gold, because it's synthetically perfect. It's like this purely digital thing that only refers to itself and reality via the proof of work mechanism. And it kind of creates this like bubble of like, it's like a virtual ruler for value that could have never existed before. And there's no way that gold or any other asset can compete with like its perfectness at operating as one thing, because like now it's like this physical thing has to compete with a software program that precision does something, you know? And again, like to just think through like the magnitude of that change to the world, you have to do a lot of research to appreciate it. Some of my favorite people who talk about it, Aaron Segal, Jason Lowery, Tomer, Jeff Booth, like these are people that your audience like love, but these guys like they're trying to describe like such a monumental shift in how the world works that is Bitcoin.
Yep.
And it's hard to relate to. Like another great is Parker Lewis. One of my favorite articles that he wrote is Bitcoin obsoletes all other monies.
Yes.
But outside of that talk, I recommend that talk or that article. People should read that article. People should read all of Parker Lewis's stuff. But Parker Lewis has a great line, which is Bitcoin is first counterintuitive and then it's hyperintuitive. So I think why that is so important is like when you're dealing with people, you have to understand like they're all fiat minded. So to them, Bitcoin is counterintuitive. It breaks all of their assumptions, so they don't get it. And then once they've done the work to get it, like once Bitcoin becomes hyperintuitive for you, then you can't unsee it. Like that you've caught the mind virus. Now you live in the Bitcoin world. You live in the Bitcoin incentive scheme, and like and that's reality for you now. And it influences every single thing that you do. Like you can't break out of that.
Yep.
So I think that's really important because you have to get to that point to see it, right?
Totally.
You have to like, you have to have that switch where you are now in the Bitcoin overlay. And part of that is actually dealing with the protocol. Part of that is learning about it. And personally, I think that over time you need to learn less and less to kind of switch over because Bitcoin becomes more obvious over time. Like it really wasn't that obvious in 2010. I think it's more obvious now, but it's still not that obvious. Like, you know, I give people a lot of credit, even really smart people still, it's not obvious to them.
Most people won't.
I was just going to say, it's one of those things where I think in 2017, when you got this, you had like a entrepreneurial libertarian bent generally, or maybe you got into shitcoins and went down that rabbit hole. But as time goes on, I think it becomes much more of like, because of all the education, that content, because of guys like Bitcoin Magazine and Swan out there putting all this stuff out there, it becomes much more like how much attention are you paying to the world, less how much, what is your disposition as far as politics, or your disposition as far as like being a libertarian and that type of thing, or being a sound money advocate. It's becoming less of that, and it's becoming more simply like how much are you paying attention?
Yeah.
And I think that will continue for the next couple cycles.
Totally. Most people will not have to go through this big intellectual journey to make this decision that Bitcoin's important. It'll just be important, right? Let's compare it to the internet, right? You had people in the advent of the internet, as that stack was being built out, that were like, holy shit, this is going to change the world. Most of us didn't go through that process. You were just forced to start using it because every single merchant and consumer started using it. Right. And that's how people started communicating. It just became naturally ubiquitous over time. The same thing is going to happen to Bitcoin. And at the end of the day, it just needs to keep doing. I mean, yes, it's being innovated on, it's being built on, but the value proposition to go back to it is it's sitting there and doing nothing, just continuing to tick away the way it always has. When the crazy thing for a Bitcoiner in these bear markets is people are approaching you right and left. For a lot of people listening to the show, this is going to resonate. And they're saying at Thanksgiving last week, they're saying, you still into that Bitcoin thing? And you're sitting there going, I literally think it's the most important thing happening in the world right now. Right? I mean,
they still don't believe you, Dan.
I know,
it's like they don't actually believe you because they're fiat minded. They don't
crazy.
Get that you can even have this kind of conviction.
Right. I mean,
that's foreign to them.
We're all getting asked this question, and then we're sitting there, and I'm saying, yeah, I argue it's solving the most fundamental issue of the 21st century, right? Value transfer across time and space has been broken as we've moved into the digital age. And this protocol has a chance to reinstate equity and profitability and prosperousness across maybe the most fundamental language of our species, right? But
you're just a closed-minded know-it-all, dude.
I am. There's no doubt about it.
Be more open-minded.
But yeah, that's where you just can't. You can't jam this down anyone's throat. You have.
We're
to
just
take
so
them
early,
down.
man.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
It's
I
almost
hear this
as if
stuff all the time. Still, seriously.
The internet was like the Gutenberg press. It was like the machine that could produce the books, right? And it's like Bitcoin is the first book that's being created in mass, and the first one we're all being able. And it's crazy, man. Like I think there's going to be a lot more world-changing things that are going to be produced as a byproduct of this and the internet in general, but I still think we are in very early innings for all of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's a crazy time to be alive.
100%. And I know we're getting the time, so I'll leave you guys with this one. But so would all of us would agree that our current system is fraught with like malinvestment and misallocation of capital, and that's holding back humanity in an enormous way?
Yeah,
absolutely, man.
So,
yeah, we've been looking at that. I mean, arguably in the traditional markets for the last 10 years has been just malinvestment compounding on itself, because the great financial crisis should have resolved itself in like a whole shitload of banks going bankrupt and everything kind of resorting itself, but we didn't allow that to happen, so here we are.
I mean, that's probably been happening since like the 40s, right?
Probably,
since early days, across the globe. And
it's just within our little purview,
Yeah, one domestic bubble, right?
Right.
But the reason I asked that is because for me, it's frustrating when I talk to Bitcoiners and I encounter their like general bearishness. And like, I think one of like the pure tells of their general bearishness is like when they think of like how, if Bitcoin works, how well it's going to work, how valuable is it going to be? Like they don't account for like fundamental growth being baked into Bitcoin, right? Like we're living, like one of the reasons we're so frustrated as Bitcoiners, because like we see how bad fiat is. So I just don't get why Bitcoiners aren't baking in like some sort of fundamental bullishness to the overall pie, the world, from adopting Bitcoin in like their analysis. So I would challenge the listeners to be like, why aren't you baking in like the improvements of adopting sound money, the improvements of creating efficiency in the energy infrastructure and what that's going to do to our productivity? Because I think that is like the core reason why like Bitcoiners are miscalculating this thing. And it's super important you can't be completely correct on calculating Bitcoin because none of us are Nikola Tesla level geniuses, but we can be directionally correct. And it's like actually existentially important for you and your sat count to be directionally correct as possible. Cause you need to make like directionally sound calculations in order to like kind of get through the craziness that we're about to kind of go through. And if you don't understand that, Bitcoin's going to make infinity bigger, and hyper Bitcoinization means a bigger infinity divided by 21 million. Hence, your sats will be more valuable than you can imagine. Then I think that you might be making some incorrect calculations when you're looking at how to navigate the Bitcoin market. And that almost means everything. Like you need to get this as right as possible, because like it means everything.
So what you're saying though is like this is an abundance versus scarcity mindset is really fundamentally what it is. And so, I mean, if you've started a business and like seen it grow, if you've done anything of that nature, being an entrepreneur, like you have to have an abundance mindset versus scarcity, or it just will not work out, because you're just fundamentally cutting yourself off at the knees by thinking you have to take from other people in order to grow. Like you can grow the entire pie. It really is totally a fundamental mind shift of how you look at things.
Yes. And ultimately, money is a tool of human cooperation. As that tool improves, cooperation is going to improve. That's the whole point here. Bitcoin is just a tool that's hopefully going to unlock our species to better communicate, to better interact, to better transact, right? So it's about what Bitcoin's going to do. It's not about just being Ebenezer Scrooge and sitting on your pile, as much as we talk about hodling. It's about how Bitcoin is going to improve the cooperation of our species. And the more you understand Bitcoin and all its tentacles, which we've explored some here, you start to see, holy shit, it's not just about sound money, even though that's the core. Maybe that could be argued different ways, but let's say for me, it's the core. But then it branches off into all these different directions, and that's when the mind virus, CK, really gets entrenched, man. We're not bullish enough, Josh. We're not bullish enough.
All right, boys, I got to go check on a pork shoulder and go pull her off the smoker at this point. So, CK, can you give us a handoff to yourself and Bitcoin Magazine?
Yeah, no. So if you guys don't mind me, I'm gonna show this hat. I'm gonna show this beautiful magazine.
Gorgeous.
Like 180 pages. I don't know, of just like awesome Bitcoin.
It looks
energy.
like it came straight off of a Gutenberg press right there.
You know,
Beautiful.
It's, they make them a little bit fancier these days than Gutenberg, but pretty much the same idea continues. But go to store.bitcoinmagazine.com, get yourself some of this swag, get yourself a piece of Bitcoin history. We have a new issue coming out very soon, and I think all of your listeners are going to like it. It's very provocative, yeah, we try to capture history with all that merch. Of course, I got to show the Bitcoin conference. You know, come meet me, come meet Josh, come meet Dan at the Bitcoin conference, Bitcoin 2023.
Come meet the giant balls.
Yeah, no, we got it. We have to measure their heads, compared to the balls in person at the event.
We'll do it.
Take photos. We'll make history together and be bullish together. So you got to have balls to be bullish. Isn't that right?
Yeah, 100%. I see some memes forthcoming, Josh.
I think the Firehouse Shitter might have that handled.
Yeah. CK.
Yeah.
Awesome, dude. Not the last time you're going to be on here. We appreciate your time. Gentlemen, go make a wonderful meal for your family, and enjoyed every minute of this one, gents.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all.